Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Grayson. This is, in fact, Tech with Me. And I know almost every single person watching this right now has used a gaming console in their life, and I know I have. So today, we are doing one of my tier list videos over gaming consoles. I kind of built this tier list myself because I couldn't find one that I thought was perfect, and it may or may not be missing some good consoles. So let me know in the comments down below if I'm missing a console that you loved, or if there's a console on this list that you loved. Let me know about your memories, let me hear about it, and maybe, just maybe, we'll have to do a part 2 with the consoles I missed. Without further ado, we're gonna start with a good one, the GameCube. So what do we think about the GameCube? Kinda S tier, I think. You know, I want to say that that's almost a hard decision to make, but we're talking about a console that could play Game Boy games on your TV. And I want to say it was like the most powerful console to come out during its generation, which is weird because nowadays Nintendo is always a couple steps behind, but that's okay because they have their Nintendo games which carry the entire brand. We're going S tier. Why? There's a lot of reasons. The Game Boy games, I remember as a kid there was like, I think it was called Tack, the Great Juju Challenge. I barely remember that character or what it's from, but I loved that game. The Cars game, I had that on GameCube, I think, and I played that a lot. As a matter of fact, a few years ago, I replayed it on an emulator, and it held up. The GameCube is fantastic. I remember playing, I think it was Mario Party, and it actually had like a microphone that plugged into it for one of the games, which was sick. And you know, to start off with such a banger is kind of crazy. But now we've got to move on to one that maybe isn't such a banger. Let's talk about the Wii U. Was it S tier? I don't know that it was. I'm gonna be honest, I've never used or had a Wii U. I'm gonna put it as a D tier. From what I've heard, it wasn't great. Like, it could have been a lot better, but there never really was a whole lot of games for it. And you know, what's the point of a console that doesn't have a whole lot of games that use it? And so I never got one, and I can't say if it's any better than D tier because I never used one. From what I've heard, the people who did, it was kind of a dud. But to be honest, it led to the Nintendo Switch, which is a much better console. We're gonna put the Nintendo Switch as A tier. Not quite S tier, and honestly, the reason being is that it's just been around for too long. It's gotten to the point where some of the games that I've released for it are just dragging it down. It can't be S tier because it's not powerful enough. It was awesome. The fact that you could dock this to a TV, take it off, use it handheld, on the go, and the battery wasn't that bad, the display looked pretty good, and it did have a lot of games, a lot of JRPGs, even a lot of like third-party games. We've got The Witcher on it now, we've got the Batman Arkham Collection now. There are games like Breath of the Wild, or the new Breath of the Wild 2, whatever, Tears of the Kingdom, that's it, that have came out for it, and these games are S tier. Nintendo always just kind of had regular Nintendo games on their console. They had the Marios, your Zeldas. You know, they haven't always, sometimes, but not always, had a ton of third-party games, which kind of lowered the amount of games they had. But let's look at the Batman Arkham Collection, right? Like, they finally put those third-party games on there, but then, like, Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, from what I understand, run pretty good on it. But you get to, like, Arkham Knight, and it doesn't run well because the Switch just isn't powerful enough. They maybe could have done some better optimization before it came out. And I'm not a game developer, but I would say that the Switch honestly has been showing its age for a while, and they maybe couldn't. Look at the newest Pokemon games like Legends of Arceus or Scarlet and Violet. And these games look rough. You would think that a game developer that only develops for Nintendo consoles should be able to get the most out of it. There are games like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom that look awesome on the Nintendo Switch, but some of these games just can't do it. Maybe it's optimization. I think a lot of it's the power though. And because of that, I can't put the Nintendo Switch as S tier. I love the console, don't get me wrong, but I think it's overstayed its welcome. We need an update to it, and until we get that, I don't think the Switch can be great. And while we're talking about handhelds, let's talk about the PSP. What can we say about the PSP? I actually loved this console. I had it when I was a kid, so I couldn't exactly get a whole lot of games for it. So I didn't have a whole lot of options, but the games that I had, I loved. It came in all different types of colors. I remember the discs. The discs were crazy. I don't know what it was about them, but they always tripped me up. As a matter of fact, I had like 2 or 3 of these. I had one that I loved, and then my little brother smashed it in our minivan door. You know, to this day, I've always regretted letting him borrow my PSP because it took months for me to get another one. I remember the Iron Man game for PSP. That was sick. Like, I know it doesn't look like much, but oh my god, that is one of my top 5 favorite games probably ever. I played it so much, and you had all the different suits you could unlock. Some of them weren't even from the movie. You could customize your armor for different weapons. The Iron Man 1 game for PSP was so awesome. And I put it as S tier, and there's a reason for that. It's amazing. It was one of the first really powerful, or at least I feel like it was way more powerful than others, handheld consoles. You know, before the Steam Deck, before the ROG Ally, maybe not before the DS, but it seemed more powerful than the DS. It was basically like an actual console in your hands, and I think it was amazing. And that leads me to the PS Vita. You know, it was basically just a better PSP. Had a much better display. The battery was a little bit better, but, you know, I don't feel like PlayStation ever really invested into it. It almost feels like they released it because they had to, not because they wanted to. And because of that, you know, the PS Vita just kind of fell away. It didn't really have the games. It had some, you know, Assassin's Creed Liberation was originally a PS Vita exclusive, and that was a pretty good game. There were some good games for it, but it just didn't have a ton. But you buy a PS Vita today, you can like jailbreak them or whatever it's called. And I know that these are some emulation powerhouses. People love these things for emulation, and I can't knock that. As a matter of fact, I have thought about getting them. You know, I know that the people use them for emulation love them, and I've thought about getting one myself for emulation. But, you know, if we're just judging it on when it came out, honestly, it should have been A tier. But I'm gonna have to put it as C tier because it was limited on the amount of games it had. They never used it to its full advantage. They never fully wanted to support it and back it. And then there was also the whole memory card fiasco. I barely remember this, but I think they used like proprietary memory cards that were way too expensive for what they were. And you know, I can't respect that. But I kind of want to put it higher up than that. I'm going to put it as B tier. I'm going to swap it. And I'm going to swap it because of what it can do in the emulation side of things. That is sick. Being able to play tons and tons of games. Like, I can't even mention the games that I've seen on here, but it is an emulation powerhouse. People love it for that. And because of that, we're going to have to go B tier. It could have been better if they had supported it previously, but for what it is today and what it could have been, it's really awesome. I just don't feel like it was the follow-up the PSP needed. So let's make it easy. The PS1, A tier. That one's easy enough. I remember playing an ET game for it back in the day that I loved. I would honestly replay it to this day, but I remember getting really confused as a kid, and honestly, I'm not much smarter than I was then. But the PlayStation 1 set up PlayStation to be what it is today. Because of that, we've got to go A tier. What about the Series X and the PS5? I kind of feel like we should do those together, honestly, because they're both very similar, but what's going to hold them back in my mind is the fact that, you know, we're years into this console generation, and I don't feel like any of them are being used to their fullest potential yet. The issue with that is that up until like 2 years ago, even a year ago, really, they were still releasing games for Xbox One and Xbox Series X and PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. And we're just now getting to the point where when a new game comes out, it only comes out for the new gen console. We're very limited to games that are using them to their fullest potential for us to know if they're even S tier or not. I'm going to put them as A tier. A tentative A tier. Maybe in a few years we follow up with a new console tier list and we reevaluate these two. Because it could change, who knows? But I feel like we're getting relatively close to the end of this console generation. Well, let's just say the end of that console generation was 2019. Even if we say 2020, that was 7 years. So when did the new consoles come out? In 2020. So we're 4 years into this console generation. Fair enough, we're not as far into it as I thought. I felt like they had been out a little bit longer than that. So maybe it's not so bad, but they basically got 3 more years. Maybe longer, like maybe they stretch it out longer than they did this last one, because I feel like the Xbox 360 was around a lot longer than the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4s were, but maybe they stretch it out longer, maybe they don't. But is it gonna be the Xbox Series Z, whatever they're gonna call it, whatever stupid name they're gonna give it, or is it gonna be your PS6 before we start to see like really next gen feeling titles? Maybe we've just gotten to a point where you can't really tell the difference as much. But I feel like there's a lot of opportunity and potential that these consoles have that we haven't seen yet. So I have to put them as A tier. And what about the PS3? Well, I actually liked my PS3 a lot, but nobody had a PlayStation. At the beginning they did, but the Xbox 360 was so popular, it just blew the PlayStation away. Everybody used it. If you wanted to play with friends, you could not get a PlayStation. You would play alone, and that's what happened with me, because I started with a PlayStation 3. I am a PlayStation guy. I actually prefer PlayStation to Xbox. I always have. But nowadays, I just get what my friends use, and I think most people did. Because of that, I'm gonna put the PlayStation 3 as B tier. It was good, and it was really powerful. I do know a lot of developers had trouble developing for it because of the chip they used. It was so different that it made it difficult for them to make the games. And because of that, the power didn't get used, you know, and because of that, it wasn't really more powerful. Like it was, but you couldn't make use of it. But that goes to the Xbox 360, which is easily S tier. Let's be real. The Xbox 360 was a phenomenal console. Sure, it had the red rings of death. I remember when me and my little brother dealt with that. We were about to beat Assassin's Creed 2, and the red rings started happening. We went weeks without being able to play it, and we just wanted to know what happened at the end of Assassin's Creed 2. The game had been sick. We wanted to know what was happening, but the game console was red ringed. It was dead, and we had no idea how to fix it. Finally, one day my dad tried the put it around, like wrap it with a bunch of towels and turn it on trick, and it worked. But it would only work for like 30 minutes at a time before it would overheat, red ring again, and then we'd have to wait an hour for it to cool, and then turn it on, play another 30 minutes, and we dealt with that for a while. You know, as an adult, as somebody who has adult money nowadays, I would never ever deal with that. I would just go buy a new console, throw the other one in the trash, and be done with it. I might not be able to afford that new console well, because I'm still a broke boy, let's be honest. But I would make it happen somehow. But as a kid, we put up with that. And the end of Assassin's Creed 2 was phenomenal. Not to mention, as the Xbox 360 continued on, they made the better versions, right? The Slims, the black version, which I think was the Slim, but there might have been some other ones. And they were awesome too, right? Think about all the games we had. Like, gaming changed with this generation. And, you know, honestly, PlayStation 3 should be higher just for being a part of that generation. But the Xbox 360 is S tier because everybody had one. I don't know what the exact breakdown is of it, but it seems like if you put 10 people in a room together, 2 of them would have a PlayStation, maybe, and the rest would have Xbox, because that's just what it was like back then. If you wanted to play multiplayer, if you wanted to play with your friends, Xbox 360 was the way to go. And it was a good console. I'm gonna be honest, even though I'm a PlayStation guy, I really liked like the Xbox avatars and the Xbox home screen. The way they did that I thought looked a little bit better than the PlayStation. All in all, it's just S tier console. Probably one of the greatest consoles that have ever been. Probably one of the greatest consoles that will be. The Xbox 360 is S tier, and I don't think anybody can argue that. You know, and then we've got the PlayStation 2. That one's S tier. That's easy. I don't even have to talk a lot about that. We all know the PlayStation 2 was S tier. Built-in backwards compatibility it could play PlayStation 1 games. The PS3 had that for a little bit, but all of the PlayStation 2s had that, I'm pretty sure. On top of that, the DVD player, which was crazy. That's the reason DVDs won out against like VHS, I think, or something like that. They beat something. But people had PlayStation 2s. Every household had a PlayStation 2 because parents were willing to buy them for their kids because it was cheaper to buy that than a DVD player. Like, Sony knew what they were doing when they developed it. They put a DVD player in it and they sold it cheaper than what an actual DVD player cost, and they got one in so many houses. The games were awesome. GTA San Andreas, all of the Dragon Ball Z games, to this day, I still have a PlayStation 2 emulator on my PC to play Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2 and 3. Mainly 3, sometimes 2. But there were so many other games. Spider-Man 2, like, there wasn't a game that wasn't a banger on this console. It was phenomenal. The original Xbox, I'm not gonna say a whole lot about it. I'm gonna put it as B tier. No, I'm gonna put it as D tier. I'm gonna be fair to the Wii U because I never used the original Xbox. None of my friends had it. I didn't have one. Just wasn't a console I used. It built what Xbox is today, allowed them to become what they are today. So I gotta respect it. I do know that the controller was ugly. I'll judge it for that. The controller sucked. Like, come on. Somebody tell me what this is. What is this? That controller is so large. It's massive. You couldn't fit that controller in 2 houses. You would have to take your door off just to get it inside. I don't know what they were thinking when they developed this controller. But maybe hey, this is sick. What is this? Minecraft Piggy controller. Ooh. Bookmark? But, you know, to be fair, I think Xbox learned their lesson from the original one, because the Xbox 360 controller, one of the best controllers ever. I've always liked Xbox controllers other than the original. The Xbox 360, the Xbox One, and the new Xbox Series X controller, all pretty much the same design, and you can't knock them because they're awesome. The DSi, or the DS, really any of the DS, the DS Lite, the DSi, those are S tier. Can't say anything other than that. PixArt was awesome. I think it was called PixArt. I don't know. I had some game you drew and then it made like a movie out of it. That was sick. There was a game where you had to like draw your weapons and stuff and draw to make the game continue. That was a sick game. Pokemon. All of the Pokemon games that came out this generation were lit. To this day, Soul Silver, I still play it. Diamond. I'm not going to play the original Diamond anymore because the remake's out on Switch, but it's awesome. But then you have the 3DS, which I'm gonna put as A tier. It was basically just the DS, but a little bit better. Didn't really add a whole lot. As a matter of fact, the 2DS I feel like was the better console because the 3D just never really caught on. Basically, all I'm saying, the 3DS was awesome. Just, I don't feel like it was really a meaningful upgrade or meaningful change. And because of that, I'm going to put a little bit lower than a DS. I can't make it S tier just because it is a DS, because the DS by itself was S tier. The 3DS by itself, though, like if we're just saying, was the 3DS a good upgrade? I don't really think it was that great of an upgrade. So A tier, still good, not great. What about the Wii? The Wii is S tier. It can play GameCube games. The Wii was a great console. It was just like the PlayStation 2. Everybody had one for absolutely no reason. Everybody just had one and they were awesome. I remember one Christmas, me and my little brother wake up and we open all of our presents. At the end of it, my parents are like, hey, we got a bonus present. This one's for the family. Check this out. Me and my little brother open it. Boom, a Wii. Didn't even ask for it. I don't even think I knew it existed. And they just got it for us. And I think a lot of families were like that. The Wii was massively popular for absolutely no reason other than being awesome. Wii Fit was great. I never lost any weight playing it, but you probably could have. There was a scuba diving game I played, though. That game was lit, okay? Like, best game ever. A couple Mario games for it were awesome. You know, I kind of feel like the motion controllers could have been better, but for the technology we had at the time, maybe not. Still legendary. This was a legendary console. I don't think anybody could argue differently. Had tons of games. It had a lot of third-party games, a lot of Nintendo exclusives. It was awesome. Then we've got the PS4 and the Xbox One to close us off. I kind of feel like I need to do them together. What can I say about them? There's not really a whole lot to say about them. I think they were really good. I don't think that they were S tier. I don't know that they were legendary, but they were pretty good. I think PlayStation beat out the Xbox in this generation. I think it flipped. And, you know, I always preferred my PlayStation on this generation, but all of my friends still used Xbox. So I had both, and I enjoyed both. PlayStation, I'm honestly gonna put S tier because of the legendary exclusives that it had, right? Like, PlayStation has always done great at exclusives. Xbox, not so much. But we're talking like the Horizon Zero Dawn came out on the PS4, I think. The new God of War game, Spider-Man PS4, like all of these games started with the PS4. And it's legendary because of that, all by itself. The Xbox One, awesome console. I preferred my PS4, but the Xbox One did everything the PS4 did, just as good, I think. And all my friends had it. I'm gonna put it as A tier, because it didn't have the exclusives. It didn't really stand out. Like, if I had to choose to buy one and the one that my friends used wasn't the reasoning for it or wasn't an option, I'm going PS4. But the Xbox One I liked. The controller was better, but A tier. And that's it. We've done our console tier list. GameCube, PSP, 360, PS2, the DS, the original DS. I think this is a DSi, but really any of those, they were all basically the same console. The Wii and the PS4, all S tier. The Switch, the PlayStation 1, the PS5, Series X, 3DS, and Xbox One, A tier. PS Vita and PS3, B tier. No C tier product. I don't know why, but we didn't do C tier at all. The Wii U and the Xbox original, D tier, because I never used them. They did have some issues. The controller on the Xbox sucked. I almost said the Xbox One, but we all, The controller on the Xbox sucked. The Wii U didn't have a whole lot of games. Sucked. D tier. But that's it for this tier list. I know this was a long video, so I appreciate you guys sticking through if you did. My name's Grayson. This is Tech with me. Thank you guys very, very kindly for watching. Subscribe if you want to stick around and catch more like this every other Friday. And if you liked it, leave a like. If you disliked it, disliked, because the algorithm only sees engagement, baby. And leave me a comment, because I really would like to hear from you guys. Anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Let me know if y'all agree with this tier list or not. Talk to you guys later. Bye.